It always makes me smile to see her smile. It was a good day. I'm Lisa Hill, and I'm Lauren's mom. That's the Lauren I know, different from probably the Lauren you guys know, because steroids made her fluffy. I call it fluffy, but swollen, whatever. So she got a little fluffy, but that's the Lauren most of Lawrenceburg knows. She was definitely a determined young lady. Actually, Dawn and I were talking about Tamika and Lauren. Her determination definitely didn't let anything hold her back, and if you said she couldn't do something, she would definitely prove you wrong. Lauren played in that game, but I know she was razzing Brad Johansson, the reporter, because they called it the one last game, and she was determined not to make it her last game. She played in 4 games, college games, and scored a total of 10 points. And in the last service, I had talked about her passing on April 10th, which is 410. So kind of an interesting little tidbit of information that she would hold out for her stat day. Lauren, her symptoms, I guess, like in retrospect and sitting there thinking, like this morning, I would have never thought, as a normal mom, you know, she had some symptoms and I blew it off. She thought something was wrong with her ears or her eyes, and she really didn't. And then she'd gotten a black eye from having a run-in with her teammate, and huge. It was like really big, and it turned every shade of the rainbow. It was probably the worst black eye I've ever seen. And then I thought, well, maybe she does have some swelling behind the eye that's putting pressure or something. And when we went in to have her looked at, a brain tumor is the last thing I would have ever thought we would be diagnosed with. You know, some swelling behind the eye, concussion, probably. I don't know. We've had 1 or 2 of those, so I could envision that. But brain tumor was definitely a shell shocker for us. And Lauren pretty much took over the whole visit, I'll be honest. You know, Brent and I sat there and were really devastated. And I worked for Children's Hospital at the time, and you read all these diagnoses and things on paper, and you can imagine, but to actually be sitting there and getting the news that we got was overwhelming. And Lauren, with the person she was, took over all the questions, and she shot off everything from, I don't know, like how much time, to talking about freezing eggs. The girl went crazy with questions. And by the time we were done, the doctor's like, do you have any question? Like, what didn't she cover? I'm not sure there's anything left to ask. Especially at that time, because most of the stuff we didn't remember anyway until we went back in a day or 2 later with a follow-up visit, because it's just too overwhelming. Lauren had a definite need to keep things normal, or as normal as she could be. She still wanted to go to school. One of her first questions was, could she still play basketball, because it was her senior year and she was ready to get out there and show everybody what she was made of. It was going to be her year, and she was primed and ready to go, and she was supposed to be the one on the court that year. So she wasn't about to let anything hold her back or stop her from chasing after that dream. And we had a couple long talks on the way home. Children's Hospital's mottos changed the outcome, and we had talked about like what that meant as a hospital and making things better, improving things for the future. And she also had a conversation with her doctor about how DIPG and brain tumors in general needed a voice, Susan G. Komen, if you will, kind of person to mentor and be a spotlight. And at first she kind of I don't think she really thought about it until you'll hear her talk about January. She was really pondering, why her, why me, just like all of us do in a bad situation. Why is this happening? And she must have had one of those moments to herself, and she had a conversation with God, trying to figure out like why her, what was she supposed to do, what was she supposed to learn out of it, and came to the realization that from past conversations she was supposed to be the voice. DIPG is particularly like right around the 5 to 9-year-old age, and so they're not very good spokespeople. They're just little and they don't have a voice. So she took that serious to become that voice. And she had the opportunity through another DIPG, an older guy that she connected with the social workers. He was 24 and also happened to be local in Cincinnati and had DIPG as well. So they networked together and she could bounce off ideas or how he was feeling or what comes next. And he told her little things like you'd have chemo brain, so she would be forgetful. And they didn't tell her that in the hospital, but she got that tidbit of information from Brennan, and eventually he passed and she became the ambassador for The Cure Starts Now at their Hyde Park Blast. And she had done a couple interviews, like local interviews with the news stations, and had told them that she was going to go off to college and she was still trying to play basketball. And they're like, oh, we'll maybe get back with you and do a follow-up story. And we never heard from anyone, but that's all right. When she got to college and we got the news that her tumor was growing, and because of where it is in the pons, it's your control panel basically in the base of your neck, but it's got like all your nerve endings. So your breathing, your swallowing, your eyes, your motor control for arms, legs, everything is in this little thing that's about wee big at the base of your neck. And that's where this tumor was growing. And it's not just one that grows on the top, but it has tentacles, I guess is the best way to describe it. And it grows inside and like vines around in there. So you never know like what it's gonna shut off at any given moment. And Lauren, her goal was to keep living every moment that she had. And when she got to college, in the game, she wanted to play in the game, and the NCAA granted the move up for the game, which was a true blessing. And then a story came out about this girl who had a brain tumor and wanted to play in a college game. And it just like blew up. And obviously, you know what I mean? It blew up. It went everywhere. It's global at this point. And I would have never expected that, and definitely not prepared to handle it. I mean, I just had a normal Midwest child that played sports, and now all of a sudden, you know, we're dealing with media and lots of questions and people wanting to follow our story, and we're just from a quiet little town like Seymour, so definitely a different world. But Lauren took her job to be the voice for these kids very serious and became outspoken about how desperate we need research for this type of disease and brain tumors in general, because there isn't a lot for longevity at this point. A long-term survivor with DIPG is 2 years, and you'll hear my husband saying surviving's not 2 years. It's maybe 10 years, maybe, I don't know, 50. When you're talking about kids, you know, at age 5, that's not a very long time. And the average lifespan, if you Google's, about 9 months. So Lauren was blessed to have 14 months with us. And I know it sounds crazy, but I'm even more blessed that I had 19 years with her, because in retrospect, I can't imagine having a 5-year-old and not knowing like what they would turn out like. Do you know what I mean? Like questioning, would they have liked basketball? Would they have done this? Would they have done that? Really, I had 19 years and I got to see my work completed as a parent, as parents. You know, you just want to instill your morals and beliefs and have them grow up to be productive in society and do something good. I did get to see that. So for that, I'm truly thankful, because I know the woman that Lauren turned out to be, and I couldn't be more proud of of what she's done this far. When I worked at Children's, we had talked about, there was 4 of us. I was a team lead, and I had 8 employees, and there was 2 other team leads and our boss. And every year we picked out a different word for the year. I was lucky to be surrounded by like-minded people with same spiritual type beliefs. So we definitely became a support, and it was crazy. Work for a hospital, you know how crazy they are. It's very fast-paced, and with kids, like, everything happens now. You don't have, a chance to catch up. You just keep trudging through. But we had picked a couple words in the last 5 years, but believe was the first one, peace, faith, positivity, and the last one we picked, which was like September of 2013 to roll into 2014, which is kind of interesting, was hope. We were going to go into 2014 as a year of hope that, with creating a new restructure, that it would be better for our division. And that became a really interesting word for the year, the word hope. It's a double-edged sword, because as much as you want to hope and hold on to that miracle, that 1%, or by fluke of something that may come out on the fly, that just might be that healing thing, you also had a lot of realistic with the odds and numbers. I'm kind of a realistic person, so I'll look at everything, but you didn't want to hope too much so you didn't get hurt, but then you don't want to cheat. My mom, I can't not hope either, and every day it was like a fight between which line of hope I was going to be on. So for Lauren, I went with the positive, and she wouldn't let me do anything less, to be honest. But we had probably the best 2 years ever. We really lived in the moment. You learn real quick to put your cell phones down, to focus on the people that are in front of you. I talked at the last service that I'm really worried about where we're going in the future, because we're all so tech savvy with our smartphones, but they don't make us very smart anymore, because we're so reliant. You go to restaurants and you see people like this, and they're not like communicating. And my son's dating via text, I swear. And I mean, they see each other, but they spend a lot of time texting and stuff like that instead of communicating and learning the person's feelings and their facial expressions, or what their weird faces mean. When they give you that evil eye, what does that really mean? But so I'm really worried about that part of it. I don't know. The SB, Lauren's been honored with multiple awards, and the SB, we talked about that last service as a question, and it was truly an honor to even be a part of that whole experience. And it was very surreal when you're there. We're in the room with Derek Jeter and Brett Favre. We actually ate dinner with Brett Favre. I don't know, how does that even happen to a person like me? But or when you're walking past and Derek Jeter grabs your arm to stop you, to talk to you, and you're like, that just happened. He touched my arm, and okay, but so it was an experience. And I know there was a lot of controversy with the courage versus best moment, and I was explaining my take on it. As far as courage, we didn't need an award to tell us Lauren had courage. She had courage, she had faith, she had determination, and I really don't need any awards to tell me those things, because she was who she portrayed. And I felt like at the time, or still to this time, Jenner, he needs courage. He needs to be reminded every day that whatever his path is that he's choosing, or he has to walk, that he needs the courage to continue to do that. Lauren doesn't need that. What she did give us was the best moment, and I believe it happened just the way it was supposed to happen. Just like everything that we go through in life, it happens just the way it's supposed to happen, and we don't like it. We don't have to like it, but we learn from it and we take those life lessons. If you really think about it or deep reflect into it and go back and look, all the little things that happened lead up to those moments, and people cross your path for a reason or a season, and people are placed right when you need them. And Lauren's best moment and a reminder of life lessons that we all forget about, just the simple things and the little things. And the church was nice enough to put them all out in a pamphlet for you, for Lauren's. I think there's 22 of them, Donna? Yep, 22 life lessons. That was fun to come up with in the car. We were in the car. It took us a couple days to think of 22 that she would do it and then repeat, but she kept getting stuck on the same ones. But we ended up coming up with 22 different ones. But you forget those small, simple things in everyday living because we get so lost in the hustle and bustle. And I think if we learn anything from her, it's to be here in the moment, to savor the moment, and do some reflecting about what we're really doing here and how we can change our community and even other people just from what we've learned and sharing experiences, not through texting, not through emails, but just in person. I did write a question because I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do my speech. So I wrote this question down, is what you believe enough to carry you through? And I had pondered on that, not coming to church, put the church aside, close the Bible, but when you sit with your person and your soul and really think about what's right or what's true to your inner person, is it enough to carry you through? And for me and for Lauren especially, it is. You have to know what you believe in your heart, and just trust that God has you on the path, and know that just things happen for a reason and exactly the way they're supposed to. And we don't like them. I still don't like them, and I question them. And this scares me being up here only because I can't tell you how many times in my head I envision myself throwing myself on the altar in mercy and just crying and somebody have to peel me up from there. So church is hard, and not because I'm mad at God or anything like that. It's just because it's very emotional in your core. Do you know what I mean? I'm just breathing. Just remind myself to keep breathing. It happens. So this week, I'll share this story with you, but this week, Brent fell down a flight of stairs coming out of the grief counselor. So I was extremely emotional most of the week because it's hospitals. He was stayed at the hospital for 3 days and had surgery, and it was more monitors and doctors, and it's just kind of too soon. So I had texted a friend. I'm like, man, God is really testing me. He's really testing me. And my friend had texted back and said, no, I think he really trusts you. Which was oh, okay. Kind of not what I wanted to hear, but no, he's really testing me. But so he's rehabbing, and I guess 2015 is just meant for being at doctor's offices and hospitals and rehab and medical equipment. I don't know. I think I should have gone into nursing. I think that's what he's trying to tell me at this point. Clearly he thinks I need to be at the hospital. So I don't know, maybe that is a sign. We'll see. But I guess that's pretty much all I have to say, other than, just to keep each moment and know that Lauren didn't have anything special that we all don't have. It's just a matter of when the going gets tough, you have to dig deep and keep going. And that's what we all have to focus on. And just trust that God has you on the path, and with grace, He'll just hold you and just keep you going. Does anybody have any questions? I know I opened it up for a few questions, and I know you guys won't ask, so raise your hand and do it anyway, because I know you have them. Youngins? Nothing? No? They're too young, they're chicken. Adults? Wow. You guys not awake yet?
Talk about the goal that Lauren had for raising money for the foundation.
Lauren, with the Cure Starts Now, Lauren, actually, I guess that was right after the game. She decided it would be interesting to raise $1 million by the end of the year. And Keith from the Cure Starts Now, he's one of the founders and lost his daughter, Elena, when I think she was diagnosed at 5 and passed at 6. But she decided that we were going to raise $1 million by the end of the year. And he thought that was the craziest idea ever and that it could not be done. But we actually did do it by the end. It was the 31st, and it happened, I think, around 8 o'clock, maybe 7 or 8 o'clock. We actually had ended up that night over like $1.1 million that night. And that was just awesome. She was so excited about it. I actually have a videotape of her in the car going, I don't know if we're gonna make it. And then all of us in the car are like, we're gonna make it. You can't take that. We're going to make $1 million. It's gonna happen. And then she's like, okay, well, everybody says we're gonna make $1 million, so I guess we're gonna do $1 million. And we'd gone to the Globetrotters that night, but prior to, it was kind of a zany day, but she was excited to do that. We had a lot of fun at the Globetrotters first, and then went in towards the end to see if we had made the $1 million or be there when we finally did. And she was so excited to get that all done. And then I think right when she passed, there was a big influx in memory of her passing, and I think we ended up like around 1.4, 5, somewhere through there by the time she passed. And then since then we're sitting like right about 1.8, just shy. We've been in 1.7 for a while, but it's been slow probably for the past month. And after she met the $1 million, she quickly came out like, we're going for 2.2, we're going for 2.2. And Keith's like, no, stop, you're crazy. So we're not at 2.2 yet, but I think with the game coming up, we're gonna try and do like a little push or a wave to try and get her to that 2.2 mark at the Xavier tip-off. They're doing a little memorial basketball game, Lauren Hill tip-off down at Xavier. So it'll be Xavier and Evansville are gonna be the Division I, and then Mount St. Joe and Hiram will play again at Xavier. So I don't know, it's kind of going to be a bittersweet thing for me because I haven't been back since the memorial service that was there. So as excited as I am, I really don't want to go either, but that's just kind of where it is. But we'll keep pushing and trying to grow to $2.2 million, and I don't know, maybe we'll get there by this Christmas. We'll see. And then with the grants, I will tell you, like the V Foundation with Dick Vitale and that team, gosh, that was another like $800,000 that they donated in grants in her honor. So she's well over $2 million, but not like through the Cure Starts Now. So it's exciting. And for me at this point, I didn't go back to Children's Hospital. I ended up deciding to carry on Lauren's mission and her word and her work, and took on a job at the Cure Starts Now. Everything happens for a weird reason. Somebody left right as I was getting ready to go back to work, and literally I went back to volunteer, and I struck up a conversation, and now I'm there, and with a lot of parents that have lost their kids. So maybe that's just where I'm supposed to be right now, and gives me purpose to know that I'm honoring Lauren by carrying on her work and her mission to be the voice for kids and hopefully find a cure. My goal is to be out of a job in 5 years. I know that's not a normal thing for a parent to say, but I'm willing to be out of a job in 5 years because we're curing cancer and we don't have to worry about it, or at least if you get sick, we know we have something we can do about it and not have an end of life process or have to plan that. That's not fun at all. I'll share with you her headstone's coming. I'm kind of excited about that. It's finally done tweaking it. We've gone back and forth with sculptors, but it'll be an angel, and she's holding a jersey. So, and it's 5'11". Kim Dewitty, in case it's really big. It'll be really big. So I'm kind of, I don't know, for me that's like a closure piece. It's kind of like out there and still needing to be taken care of, and I have no idea what I'm going to say on the back of it. I still have to write that, so hopefully it'll just come to me one night and I'll just be able to write it down and figure out what we're going to say on the back, because I have a lot to say, and her story's not, just 20 lines with 147 characters. That's a lot to squish in. So hopefully I'll find the right words here someday, soon, because I'm running out of time. Any other questions?
Did Lauren have any brothers and sisters?
Mm-hmm. Lauren's my oldest. I have my son Nate. He's 18. He's a senior this year at Lawrenceburg and plays football. And then my youngest will be 15 on the 15th in 2015. That's like super, super fun. And she's a freshman and trying not to bug her older brother too bad at the high school so she doesn't get in trouble. And she's doing soccer and basketball. She'll play soccer and basketball as well. Lauren played soccer, gosh, since she was from lollipop on up. And oddly, she was cut her senior year. She was a goalie, and no rhyme or reason, really. And there was plenty of room on the roster, but got cut. I told this story last time, but another one of those things that everything happens for a reason. But Lauren is she was quiet, determined, but very quiet, kind of to herself. She wasn't very outspoken. And when she was cut, she didn't understand why she was cut from the soccer team. And Britt and I had talked to her and prepared her to write a list of all the questions, because the parents weren't allowed to intervene. The kids had to go to the coach and have the conversation with them. And we prepared her by telling her she had to write down all of her questions. So if she got emotional or didn't get an answer, you know how your emotions turn on, or your anger, and then you just don't hear anything anymore, or you lose your train of thought. So we sent her in with a list of questions, which I think took the coach back, because he said out of all the years he had coached, nobody has ever done that. So she was really prepared, but I think in retrospect, by the end of the season, the basketball season, we were at the hospital, and I'd been doing a lot of thinking about the little milestones that have happened and nitpicky things along the way that just kind of made the whole plan what it was. And a coach had come to mind that I know, from the basketball coach perspective, he was pushing Lauren to play harder, to work harder at practices, because he knew what she was capable of, but her body wasn't doing what it was supposed to do because she had a tumor and we just didn't know it. And he had kicked himself in the high knee for pushing her too hard, and because he didn't know, and I told him, you didn't know, how are you supposed not to? It's your job as a coach to keep pushing to get what you need out of the kids. And thinking about it, I felt bad for the soccer coach, and I felt like I needed to go back and have a conversation with him and let him know that it wasn't, although I don't agree with how everything happened, it could have been handled an entirely different way. In retrospect, it was a life lesson for Lauren, and she needed to know how to speak up and for what she believed in, and to go back and question things and be okay with her person and her voice. And had she not done that, maybe she wouldn't have been able to do what she did from that little bitty lesson. So I felt like it was important to go back and call him and basically say, there's no hard feelings, and know that at this point that she needed that life experience to happen, and just learn from that and learn to be her voice. And he was grateful that I called to give him that piece of information and just to release, that negative energy and not carry it anymore. And he said, I never thought about it that way. And he was so grateful that I had just picked up the phone and called. But I was glad I got to be able to release that, because you shouldn't carry that bad mojo around with you. It's just not worth the energy. And it's kind of like a piece of forgiveness. And I don't know, just worked out the way it was supposed to work out. And it's crazy. Faith is crazy. You just got to keep rolling with it and know that in the end, if you really search for it, we all have little lessons from everything that happens around us. I want to thank you for having me here today. It's been an honor and a privilege to speak with you, share Lauren's story, and hopefully you'll be able to help be her voice along with me and just carry it through and help me help the little kids fight. So, thank you.
You've seen our t-shirts, Club 22. That was Lauren's number, 22. The Cure Starts Now is her foundation, and all the money that she raises goes to cancer research.